Aha, hello, Cornwall TV here and video repair time. This time it's a 4K Panasonic. There's one in a box and there's one that's not living in a box. I'm living in a box. 48-inch CX400B, and this is the brute. The problem with this one is I can't remember. I think it's a backlight issue. The reason I can't remember is I got this about 6 or 7 months ago to repair and stick in my workshop. Now someone's been in with a 4K DVD player recently, so I thought, oh, I ought to get that 4K TV working. But the first thing I've noticed with this, I can't get it to go into TV mode. It's recognising the HDMIs and all the extensions. This one doesn't have a SCART, but it's not going into digital TV, yet it says there digital TV enabled. So I'm confused. Anyway, just want to faff about with this for a second. It is a Panasonic, but it's a Vestel Panasonic. I don't know if that means anything to you. Vestel are an Eastern European company that make TVs. And I always say for the entry level, shall we say, the cheaper end of the market. Always surprised that Panasonic got in contact with them and said, yeah, do some of our TVs, will you? Must have been a great deal for them. And even though this is, I mean, it sounds strange saying entry level, but this is a 3D 4K TV. But the picture quality on these are not great. The 4K is okay and the high definition's all right, but the SD channels, the built-in Freeview channels, are just rubbish. Very washed out. Well, at the moment they're worse than rubbish because I can't get them to be enabled. That says enabled. I'm going to have to do a first-time installation on this and see. I thought the issue was backlights. Anyway, just going to go through the process of starting it from new. So we're just going to go into the menu and get it to be a 4K first-time installation. That should bring us back the TV. Should bring us back the TV. But I don't think that was the issue. That wasn't why the guy was selling this. As I say, I picked this up months ago. And I've just been waiting for the opportunity to repair it. And since I had a 4K DVD player in to repair this week, I thought it'd be nice to see what it looks like, the quality on the 4K TV. So I've been playing with this TV for about 10 or 15 minutes, and as you can see, backlights haven't gone, the picture is still there. So, just going to test if it gives me a picture and sound. I can only do it for a second. Yes, there it is. Right. I can't do this for long, otherwise YouTube will get very angry with me for broadcasting, so we'll just chip that off. And I've noticed something. Look at this. I haven't taken the screen off. I'm just pausing a whitish, greyish picture. Heaven's sake, you can see the backlights all the way through the TV screen. The little round things are the backlights in the back. That is terrible. But I think we've spotted a couple of faults with this. Look, we've got one backlight that's coming on and off. It's flashing. On. Now go off. And the other problem is just a bit further down and to the left. So on a lower row of backlights, there's one that's gone completely. But how these backlights are staying on under these conditions, I don't know. Look, there's the one that's gone completely. And we've got that one that's flickering. So, even though the TV is working, this is going to be an issue. I would imagine after it's been on for half an hour or 45 minutes, it's going to switch off. So, we're going to have to take it to bits, take the screen out, and have a play. Deep joy. The reason I said deep joy earlier was because this is not the easiest to take to bits. It's a bit of a faff. Bit by bit, things have got to come out in the right order. So the first thing is obviously take the speakers off, because if I turn it the other way around, they're just going to fall off and get in the way. So speakers gone. Next, we're going to be looking at the leg stands. This doesn't have a stand; it has feet. Two little silver feet which stick out. They're the brackets for them. So off with them. Then we can see the black bezel at the bottom, that's just a protective piece for the screen which is underneath, the screen tabs. So we need to take that out. I've already taken away where the standby supply LED bulb is. So that's gone. We can now see the screen tabs, and there's just a little Panasonic chrome. It's not chrome, it's plastic effect chrome. If that makes such a thing, if that makes sense. So that's gone, and now there's all the screens around the side, or the screws around the side, sorry, which support the screen. I'm going to take those off, then we'll have a look at the backlights. That easy. I say that easy, that took, in total, that took over an hour to do, so bear that in mind when you take these things to your engineers. I know we edit these videos down to make them look like they're going to be really quick, but they're not. These have got to come out, but they do come out easy. And then once they're out, I can take the reflector sheet out, and then we can plug it in and just see if it was two backlights that were out, or one out, one in, out, checking it all about. And I'll help you count them all together. 66 LEDs in the back of this 48-inch 4K TV. So let's plug it in. Plugging it into a safe, isolated supply. And yes, we do have two out. In the place we were looking at earlier, the TV's facing the other way, so it looks slightly different. You possibly can't see that they're out because they're reflecting on each other, because they're so bright. Very bright, these lights. You probably have noticed now, we have two there. It's not flashing anymore, it's just out. And again, these two must have gone short. Why the rest are working, I don't know, because they're wide in series. Both of these just must have gone short, so it allows the supply to... Hello? It allows the supply to continue... Oh, it's started flashing again now, look. I've never known one like this. But this would cause the picture to go. It would cause the well, the backlights to fail. Wouldn't cause the picture to go. The picture will still be there, but you just can't see it because there's no backlights. Now, as I said, this TV is not for a customer. If it was a customer, I'd recommend to the customer to get whole new backlights. As it's for me, just in the workshop, and I shall be using it here and there and here, I will just attempt to replace the two faulty ones. So I'm going to mark it. It's that one and that one. Tapping them is going to make no difference whatsoever. The reason they've switched off, by the way, is not because I tapped them. It's been over 5 minutes and hasn't got an aerial plugged into it. So I've taken the diffuser off the LEDs, and we're going to attempt to take them out like this. Sometimes I take the whole strips out and have a play, but no reason why we have to. I'm just repairing these two. If I was repairing half a dozen or so, that would be different. I must go looking in a second. I've got some Chinese backlights which are individual backlights, and I know... Hello, it's come back on again. How bizarre. These Chinese backlights I have, the individual ones, I know work okay. You can't see the backlights through the screen, but why on the original ones you can? I'm not too sure. Right, I've started the process of removing them. I've just clipped the top of this off. Second part is soldering the rest away. When you clip them at the top, you've got to be careful. Just make sure you just gently clip them at the top. Not that this is a video on how to do it, because if you've never done this sort of thing before, I wouldn't recommend it, because A, you've got to have an isolated power supply. So it's just showing you the process of what goes through to do this. Don't get tempted to do this home, even if you have got a soldering iron, and even if you have got an isolated power supply. If you've never removed a screen before, it ain't much fun, especially if you damage it. Right. Solder on, so I'm just going to have a wiggle, and the rest of it should come away. I'm going to try and keep this as clean as possible, because I like it to look like you can't tell it's been changed. almost like it's been done in the factory. But it's very hard to do that because the factory robots are just very efficient at putting these on, where us human beings, well, we're efficient but not that efficient. So Panasonic in the day, I always thought Panasonic were a very good brand when it came to TVs. I used to know them as National Panasonic in the 60s and 70s. And then in the 80s and the 90s they did some great TVs. Panasonic's plasmas, high definition plasmas, one of the best pictures I've ever seen. No plasmas being made anymore. Now it's come down to LEDs. And I reckon they've skimped on the depth of this TV panel, which is why through the screen, on some of the bright scenes, you can see the LEDs in the background. It does happen on quite a few LED TVs, I'm afraid to say. I didn't think it happened on this one. I was surprised when I saw it earlier. Right, just cleaning it up with a bit of alcohol so I can then prepare to stick a new one in. Just going to tidy it up a bit more. I'm not using a fine soldering iron. This is just a standard soldering iron. It's not one of the expensive mega bucks jobs. I have got a fine one, but standard soldering iron, even though, you know, this is kind of classed as micro soldering, I suppose. Well, it's not micro, but it is very small. I'll show you the backlights in a second. You'll see how tiny they are. Hard to see how tiny they are on a big screen. But Panasonic these days, it's just all cheap and cheerful with the lower end stuff. It's quite sad how things change, isn't it? I remember when I was a kid, a wagon wheel. I couldn't fit a whole one in my mouth. Now, I can fit 2 of them in my gob at once. What does that tell you? Well, yes, I suppose you're right. Anyway, let's take 2 out of the packaging. This just goes to prove how many backlight jobs we do. We tend to replace them with the original strips, but sometimes if it's just the odd bulb that's gone, it works out cheaper to do it this way. But when backlights are starting to fail, they're starting to fail. So replacing the odd one here and there is not going to help you, because the others could fail next week or the week after. But as I say, I'm just going to be using this in the workshop, and what I will do, I will turn the backlights right down. I bet you they're on 100. I bet you they're on 100. And I will turn them down to about 20, 25. And that will keep them going for ages. Maybe even years. But when they do go again, and if they do go again, I'll replace it with some of those Chinese ones. These ones you can't see through the screen. Just a better design for this TV. But these are the original ones for this TV. You know, they've not been changed before. Anyway, let's just line it up the right way. Positive to negative, etc., etc. I have to make sure that the screen backlights are disconnected from the main PSU, because the capacitors can hold a few volts and you can get a few nips. So I'm just going to put a blob of solder down first, so there's a bit there to play with. That's all I need. And then with my little grips, put it into place, solder one side and then solder the other. There's one side done. Okay, it wasn't done. That will do it. That's the positive side done. Just going to do the negative side, or the ground side as I call it. Very American. But I do call it the ground. Anyway. Just get a blob of solder on this side. Sorry, I went looking for those Chinese backlights. I want to show you the individual ones. I'll show you on the next one that I do. Just give it a clean. That's one in. If you need to know, these are 3 volts and 1 watt. Different backlights, different voltages, different volts, sorry, different wattages as well. So again, if you have a problem, this is just to show you that these things can be done. Don't throw it away. Again, this guy was going to throw away, or he just wanted it out of the way. I think this TV was annoying him. I got a feeling the picture was switching off all the time. I did pick this TV up really cheap. You know, when I say really cheap, I mean 10, 15 quid, something like that. Anyway, that's gone in. I'm going to just reattach everything underneath, plug it in, and just see if this one works okay. Marvellous. Obviously I can't leave it like that. I've got the diffuser, which I will put back on. I use glue, which is E77. It's a very thin tube of glue, and it just puts the right amount of glue on for the diffusers to go back on. If the diffusers aren't on, you'll notice on the TV picture it would be a white glow. If you've got an LED TV and you're getting a white glow somewhere, or 2 or 3, especially if it's an LG make, it means your backlights, it means the diffuser on the backlights has fallen off. Doesn't happen so much on these. I do like these backlights, they're good, but they're not right for this set. I've got them in quite a few Vestel Panasonics, but on this one it just shines through the screen. I just think that's so poor. Anyway, one down, one to go. I'm going to get my screwdriver, we'll pry this one off. I'll show you with my little cutters here. I'm just going to cut away the very top bit, and gently. If I was to go right down to the bottom piece, I'd break off the solder. I wouldn't be able to attach a new one. So I still need the original solder pads there. And very important to make sure you clean up all the dust away, because if the dust ever makes it through onto some of the main diffuser sheets, it'll show up on the screen. Right. Let's remove the rest of this broken LED. I think this was the one that was flashing on and off. Well, it ain't going to be doing that anymore, is it? As soon as it comes off, I don't want it to go onto the little sticker diffuser. Or the diffuser sticker. I think that's it, that's off. Get my solder braid out, clean the rest of it up. Do like solder braid. And then I'll get the other light emitting diode ready. I want to find the Chinese one. I'm half tempted to not put a LED in this, just to put one of the Chinese ones to see if we see the difference, but that would be a bit messy. But let me just go and find one and I'll show you what I'm talking about. What are you talking about? Let me clean this first. So there are 3 ways you can do it. There's this way that I'm just replacing the faulty LEDs because I'm keeping the TV for myself. Wouldn't do this if I was selling it on for a customer. You can replace the whole strip, or I do recommend to replace all strips from new. Get your local TV engineer to do that if you have a backlight failure. This is the one I was talking about. So when these next go, I'm not going to do it now. I was tempted just to see the difference. I'm still tempted, but I'm not. It would go that way. When these next go faulty, I will do a video on replacing all 66 with these. And they all work, and they're brand new. They're just individual ones. It takes a lot of time. It's an extra hour and a half, 2.5 hours to do. But they're a better quality light, funnily enough, than the Vestel one that's there, and you don't see the reflection through the screen. Because I've done it before on this model. Anyway. Just put a bit of solder on this. You only want a tiny little amount. If you have too much on, then this LED goes in. Oops, bounces over there. The LED goes in a bit cockeyed. It doesn't go in level. If it doesn't go in level, you'll get a shadow. I'm just showing you, look, for the size. There's my beautiful fingernail. This is how small this is. If you're watching this on a big screen TV, you won't appreciate how tiny this is, how tiny they are. Just a couple of millimeters. Anyway, it's in. Quick bit of solder down the left and right side. That's done. I mean, this is really the easy bit, soldering it. The worst bit is always taking the TV to bits. You just have to be so careful and putting it back together again. But there's a close-up of the two that I've done. And let's just plug the TV in to make sure that they're both going to light up. And they're both in fine. They look okay from here. Obviously, they're not as nice and neat as the factory ones are. But the factory, you know, when it's done by factory, it's done by a robot. And it's not done by me. You know, it's not done with a cheap 1999 soldering iron. But that one's in. And that one's in. That was the one that was flashing, if I remember, flickering on and off. And it isn't anymore. So let's get the diffuser back on. I will then put the TV back together again. I won't bore you with the putting it back together process because it is boring. And I have to be so slow when doing it because you've got to be careful around the screen and the bezel and stuff. But anyway, there's the diffusers coming on. And as soon as they're on, I'll start putting the TV back together again. It doesn't take so long to put it back together. It's about 45 minutes to put back together. It's about an hour, hour and a half to take it apart. It's the screen bit that's the worst bit. So let's have a look at it back together. Switching it on, just making sure we get a nice enough picture. I won't be able to keep the picture on for too long for copyright reasons, but this will just show that it's up and running again. And it is. You've got some light reflection there from my lights in the workshop. And just a quick bit of 4K footage. Now that picture quality does look nice. You can't see any backlights now from this angle. Anyway, that's it. Thank you very much for watching. Any problems, do get in contact with us.